All right, guys, I've come around to it. I think Tarkir Dragonstorm is going to be a really nice set. The cards look very powerful. We have 6 new mechanics coming out in this set. And originally, I was kind of worried that it was going to be kind of like a Aether Drift or Innistrad Remastered scenario where the prices of the product is just going to completely tank and it's not going to be very popular. But after seeing a lot of the spoilers and realizing, wow, like this is going to be a good set, I've come around to it. Originally, I was thinking the prices were going to drop. I think the prices will only dip a little bit now, okay, in terms of the collector boosters, and we'll actually be seeing. I think we'll actually be seeing like a pretty steady rise and increase going forward for the set, with the caveat that don't forget Final Fantasy comes out in about a month. So let's go ahead over here and take a look at some of the prices of some collector boosters and things like that, and the new mechanics on why I think Tarkir Dragonstorm is gonna be a good set that's gonna grow in terms of price and value. All right, so over here we have the 6 new Magic the Gathering mechanics that's coming out with Tarkir Dragonstorm. Now, if we think about Aether Drift, we didn't really get any good new mechanics. We got Start Your Engines, but that's so specific to the whole racing aesthetic, and as of right now, it doesn't seem to be that useful in your regular gameplay in terms of constructed or like standard, modern, or even commander, because there's so few cards that actually have the start your engines mechanic or have the payoffs, and the payoffs aren't even that good. So right now, so Aether Drift just doesn't seem that useful outside of the limited environment. But let's take a look at Tarkir Dragonstorm, and let's take a look at what mechanics are coming out with Tarkir Dragonstorm. So the first mechanic is Omen. I'm gonna zoom in here so you can see this better. But okay, Omen. So this this is kind of like Wilds of Eldraine, where the cards had that adventure mechanic, and this is an amazing mechanic. I mean, it just adds another whole layer and utility to good cards or any cards. It's going to let you cast a card for an instant or sorcery, and then you don't lose the card; it just shuffles it back into your library. So this type of mechanic can and will be used in many different areas of play with throughout Magic. So again, first of all, Tarkir Dragonstorm, we already have one good mechanic, much better than Start Your Engines already. I don't think we've seen all the Omen cards, but I mean, if we just take a look at the one that was spoiled right here, 6 mana, 6/7 flying. When it ETBs, return 2 creatures, 2 non-land permanents to their owner's hand. So you can return your own stuff, or you can return your opponent's stuff, and they're non-land permanents. So it doesn't even have to be creatures. Or you can cast for 4 as an instant Omen to draw 3 cards and discard a card, which is already really good. And then you just shuffle this back in your library, which means actually when you draw it again, you can do the draw 3, discard a card again. Really excited to see what other Omen cards are going to be, but that seems like already a really good mechanic. So let's take the next mechanic, Endure. So here is whenever another non-token creature you control dies, this creature endures 2. So what Endure means is you put 2+1/+1 counters on it, or create a 2/2 white spirit token. That or is really important. So it lets you create more creatures, tokens, or pump this creature. So if you think about it, it's not a niche specific mechanic that's only going to be useful within its own set, like Start Your Engines, but this is going to be useful everywhere. So again, we have 2 great mechanics already. Let's see what let's take a look at the next mechanics coming out. Flurry. I don't know if this is a new mechanic per se. I feel like we've had this before, but they just gave it a keyword, right? But still, it's still something that you can use anywhere in Magic. It's just cast your second spell, and then it gets this thing. So that again, that's still already more playable than Start Your Engines. We have Mobilize. I think this is really interesting mechanic, definitely new, and it allows you to, there's so many things you can do with Mobilize. So basically what it does is, it says Mobilize 2, and when this creature attacks, you create that many tapped 1/1 red warrior attacking red warrior creatures, and then you sacrifice them at the beginning of your next end step. So this triggers, ETBs whenever a creature ETBs. It also triggers when creatures leave the battlefield. If you have some sacrifice triggers, you can sacrifice these tokens to whatever you have that can sacrifice. This mechanic is really, really good. It might be better than the other 2 or 3 that we already looked at. And then we have Renew, again, another really good mechanic, which is brand new. So, it has a renew cost, and basically you exile this card from your graveyard, and then whatever keywords that the card has, you get to put a counter of that keyword onto target creature, and only as a sorcery. So here we have this flying Death Touch lifelink with Renew 3. So when this creature dies, you can pay 3, exile from your graveyard, and then you put a flying counter, a Death Touch counter, and a lifelink counter on target creature. That's another really good mechanic. It triggers, few, but some exile cards from your graveyard mechanics, like Ketramos that comes to mind, and then you get to put a bunch of stuff in your graveyard. If you're self-milling, you put in your graveyard and you can still utilize it from your graveyard. So still pretty good mechanic. Not as great as the other ones like Mobilize and Omen. Maybe more of a limited mechanic, but still good. If we get some other really good keywords, what if you can put Mobilize? I don't think that's probably not going to happen, but still good. Still better than Starter Engines again. All right, so we have Harmonize, which is, so you cast this spell, you return a creature to your hand, and then you can Harmonize for 6, which says you may cast this card from your graveyard for its Harmonize cost. You may tap a creature you control to reduce that cost by X, where X is its power, then exile the spell. So basically, this lets you cast this spell a second time for a little bit more mana. But if you have a creature, like for example here, if you have a creature that's 5 power, you can Harmonize or recast this from your graveyard for 1 mana. So what's that? It's like Flashback, but could be better than Flashback in certain scenarios. Amazing mechanic again. This is 5 new mechanics that Tarkir Dragonstorm has, whereas Aether Drift just has that 1 Starter Engines, which isn't even that great to begin with. All right, and then finally we have, okay, I guess that's 6. I'm not counting Flurry. It's kind of something that's been around. But after looking at all of these new mechanics that Tarkir Dragonstorm has, I'm realizing, wow, this set is actually could be really, really good. The only thing that this set, negatively, this set's going for is just that it's released right before Final Fantasy. So I think it will have a impact on the price of Tarkir Dragonstorm in the short term. But I think right when Tarkir Dragonstorm comes out, it's gonna do really well. So if we look at here right now, the price of the collector boosters has gone up just a little bit, like $5 or something like that. It's sitting at $320. And it's holding pretty steady with a lot of sales. In the last month, average daily sold is 58. I mean, if we zoom into the sales data, it just so many boxes are being sold at 320. I think the $300 price, above $300, is probably gonna stay. If anything, if it drops, I don't see this going too far below the upper 200s, 280, 290, 280-ish. But then we're going to go back up. And I want to compare it to some of the other sets we've had recently that were good. Okay, so not Aether Drift and not Innistrad Remastered. And of course, Innistrad Remastered is not a standard set. It has nothing new. It's just a remastered set, right? So there are various other reasons that Innistrad Remastered did not do well. But real quick, look at Innistrad Remastered. It's crashing. It still crashed. Sitting at 265 right now. Did it hit its floor? Potentially. It's kind of been sitting around the 260 mark. Hasn't really gone back up, but hasn't really gone too much below. This is, I think it's close to the distribution price. We're hitting that. Will it go below distribution price? It certainly could, but I think eventually it'll come back up. Just a matter of when. And with all of these new sets that seem really amazing coming out soon, could be longer than expected. Let's look at Aether Drift, right? So Aether Drift doing even worse. Like it's doing really bad. Where it's sitting at, I mean, this person is 195, 196, 197, 195, and still going down. Now, I don't even think it's hit its floor yet. I think we're gonna see 190, 189, something 185. I think we're gonna see Aether Drift go down, and you see just it doesn't have good mechanics. And there really aren't that many great cards. There's a couple, okay, and some of those cards like Enduring Monument, Ketramos, perhaps some of this other stuff like cycling stuff might resurface later on because it's going to be in standard for a long time. So we don't know right now, but at least in the short term, like if you compare this to Tarkir Dragonstorm, you can see the vast difference. Now let's go back a little bit more, and let's look at foundations. Right now, foundations just did incredible. Like look at this chart for foundations. In the last 6 months, it's gone up 98%. Foundations released on November 15th. So about here is the release. So right here is the release for foundations, right? So pre-release, the set is basically done nothing but shoot up. And even after release, it did not, it took the slightest ever dip by like $10, and it has not looked back ever since, and it's just taken off. There's only currently 33 boxes of Foundations collector boosters on the market right now, which is really, really little. And they don't print any more collector boosters. So could we get more supply into the market for Foundations? Certainly, but it will not be that many more. And how much of an impact will it have on the price of the box? Not much. We're sitting at 488, 489 right now for Foundations. This is going over 500, definitely. All right, let's look at Duskmarn. Okay, Duskmarn obviously not as incredible as Foundations. There is 96 collector booster boxes of Duskmarn, but Duskmarn has some really good cards. And if you think about the mechanics that Duskmarn introduced, mainly the those overlords and their what's that, where you can cast them for cheaper, that mechanic, like that is still game changing, and that was game changing for Duskmarn. So Duskmarn has that going for it. They have special treatments and stuff like fracture foils and stuff like that, which helps. And so if you look at the chart for Duskmarn, Duskmarn released on September 27th ish, which is about here. Like it basically released at the bottom. So we're gonna zoom in about September 27th, like right at the beginning of this chart, right? That's like essentially the bottom of the market for Duskmarn, around 220, and I think around 220ish, and went up, came back down just a little bit. It went up to about 246, came back down to about 230, and we're sitting at like 290 right now for Duskmarn. Let's go back just a little bit more, and let's go look at Bloomborough. Bloomborough is a little bit different, right? Like if you look at the cards from Bloomborough that people play the most, it's the talents are very popular, and people just love the whole vibe of Bloomborough, right? It doesn't have any serialized cards. It's got some treatments and stuff and collectors, but I think it's really just like high demand. Let me know what you think about Bloomborough and why you like it, because people love it. I mean, look at this. So Bloomborough released August 2nd. So if we zoom into about August 2nd ish, it's about right here, 229. And it stayed down from about August till, let's just say, early. It really started going up around like late October. But ever since then, or from like September, like beginning of October, and it's just shot up from about 224, and we're sitting at about 400, 420 for Bloomborough right now, with 78 on the market, doing incredibly well. And then finally, we're going way back, right? Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which came out on April 19th. So this set didn't do great, right? On April 19th was the release. So that was like its high, 220, and then it just took a huge dip. Like this is what possibly will happen with Aether Drift. Take this huge dip for an extended period of time. So this one was from about April 20th, which is right at the release, and it just completely went down from 220 all the way down to like 182, 183, which is looking very familiar with Aether Drift. We might be seeing something very similar here. And then hit its low around late August. And ever since late August, up and down and up and down and up and down. And we are sitting at about 220 right now with 300 on the market. Aether Drift is sitting at 500. There's 577 on the market. So we really need that number to dwindle down. If we can get to about 300, I think the price will probably be hovering similar to where Outlaws of Thunder Junction is at around 220. And you really need to see numbers in like the low 100s or sub 100 to actually get this large appreciation that Bloomburrow has, that Duskmorn has right now, and certainly Foundations. Foundations hit that really early, right, with the release date of November 15th, and just so many sold, and it just shot up like crazy. So Tarkir, I think we're going to see something similar, okay, to Foundations. Just the high demand and great cards, great mechanics. Could it surpass Foundations? I mean, anything's possible. And it could do terribly because there's the looming threat of Final Fantasy right around the corner. And the economy is different because we're in a different time right now. But Tarkir Dragonstorm has sold 1,685. It hasn't even released yet. It comes out in like a week and a half. And Foundations has sold 3,878. So we're already, we've sold about half of what Foundations has sold. It's really interesting to see these total sold numbers, to see like how many collector boosters they really print of this stuff, right? So Bloomburrow, from just this is just TCG player data. Bloomburrow is 3,500 within the last year, and that's since the release in August. Yeah, so 3,500 total. Foundations 3,800 in a shorter amount of time. Duskmorn 2,600. Right, and we have 1,700 here on Aether Drift. Outlaws of Thunder Junction, it's not loading, so I don't know what that is for the whole year, but it's 3,800, and there's still 300 more. What does that mean? Did they print more Thunder Junction, or which came out a lot earlier than all this? Are they tightening the print runs of the collector boosters, or is it just more are being sold outside of TCG Player, or just cracked open outside of TCG Player? It's probably a combination of all that. I don't know about the lower print runs though, but if Tarkir Dragonstorm is already at 1,600 sales on TCG Player, like if we hit 3,000 and we're it's in the last month, it's 58 a day, we could hit that total sold 3,000 mark soon after release, although sales volume does drop dramatically and significantly after release, so we'll have to see how that goes. But again, that's my whole thing, is like Final Fantasy comes out and just takes the wind out of Dragonstorm. But I'm on board. I think this is the real deal. Upper 200s, low 300s short term. We will see 400s or 500s eventually.